Welcome to Nashville Public Library. We are here today with the 2024 Battle of the Books author. Welcome, Deya.
Hello, I am Deya Muniz. I am originally from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and I am the author of The Princess and the Grilled Cheese Sandwich.
So excited to have you here today. Can you tell us a little more about what inspired you to write The Princess and the Grilled Cheese Sandwich?
Well, it's no secret that this book is heavily inspired by me and my wife's love story. I have told people all about it in my author's note at the end of the book. It started as part of a script writing class assignment during my master's degree in sequential art in Savannah. And yeah, it just went from there. I had the luck of meeting editors in person during that program, and I pitched it to them. And then now it's a book.
So exciting. The title's quite unique. Can you tell us a little bit about how you chose the title?
So I knew from beginning to think about that assignment in that class that I wanted it to be called The Princess and the something. And I wanted it to be like a funny title that catches your eye. And I was brainstorming from the title. So originally I thought about Princess in the Backpack. Again, the full story is at the back of this book. You can read more about it. But then there was a funny little event involving my wife and a grilled cheese sandwich that she offered to make me, and I didn't want it because I had already had grilled cheese sandwich for breakfast that day. And she got really mad at me about it, which was adorable. I thought it was so cute. And in that moment, I was like, it's gonna be The Princess and the Grilled Cheese Sandwich. So that's where the entire story started. I went from the title to actually figuring out what the story behind it would be.
There are really memorable characters in it. Can you tell us more about the different characters in the story?
Yeah, the characters are based entirely on people I know, most of which are just people that were in that script writing class who I'm still friends with. The main characters are obviously based on me and my wife, and then we have Ricotta and Zola are based on two very good friends of ours. The dog Gouda is based on our dog Ellie. I liked basing characters off of people that I know like that, especially since the two main ones are so heavily based on us. It was really funny during that class because it was really obvious who was who, so it made critiques and whatnot even more fun. So that was a great time.
Food is such a fun part of the book, and I love that you named the characters after different cheeses mostly.
Yeah.
What prompted you to do that?
I don't know. This is actually the second story I've thought about where I name a bunch of characters after cheese. I just thought it would be funny running with the theme. I think it just started with Brie and Camembert, mostly because I can't tell those two cheeses apart. They are very similar. So I was like, oh, that would be interesting as a metaphor of how they belong together because they're similar cheeses. Whoa, I'm so smart. So that's how that started. And then I just kept going. I was like, oh, what are other cheese names that I could use? It got to a dangerous point where I was almost running out of good cheese names. Because then you start getting into just regional cheeses and it's all just names of places that people will recognize more as places than cheese. So it all worked out.
Yeah, I like that moment when there was Zola and then they realized it was Gorgonzola.
Gorgonzola, yeah.
What message or theme do you hope readers will take away from your book?
Well, first of all, I just want them to have a little laugh. I think that's actually really important. But I also want it to kind of give you the idea that to do the best you can with what you have, make the most out of the cards you were dealt to make a happy life for yourself, and also to advocate for the things that are important to you with the power that you do have. So that, but mostly the laughs.
Along those lines, did you run into any challenges when you were writing the book? And if so, how did you overcome them?
I don't think so. It kind of just came to me. I kind of had a short time to figure out the story itself. And then when we got to the more like deeper, more important conversations towards the end of the book, I actually rewrote that a couple times. Like I had it originally written out, and then when I was doing like kind of my script writing and thumbnailing phase, which like thumbnailing is like doing tiny little sketches of what the page is gonna look like, just so that you know, I work better visually. I'm not very good at like prose descriptions of things. So it's only those really important, more deeper conversations towards the end that I felt the need to like really work on what is being said so that it hits the emotional marks, and also I don't say anything wrong or things ideally can't be misunderstood. I wanted it to be very clear what they were saying. But I wouldn't call it like a challenge. I was actually very, very surprised because I sent like the script era of it, the script form of it, and I was expecting people to be like, cut this whole scene out. No, we need this, we need that, add a bunch more stuff here. This scene is horrible. And I got like nearly no notes. And I was like, wow, really?
Nice.
Are you guys sure? I don't know what I'm doing. Like how, like, are you sure? So yeah, not a lot of challenges, but.
Nice. Illustrations often play a critical role in children's books.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the process of creating the artwork for this book?
Well, as I've mentioned before, even my like script process involves like illustrating. Again, I am not good at prose descriptions of things. I am a very visual person. So it was, except for the part where it was done in the script writing class, it was always done with the visuals in mind. It was always planned with the visuals at the same time. So it's like, you can't like divorce the two things, really. At least I can't. It's also extremely time consuming.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to look a certain way, to a point where it was a little bit like detrimental to me that I wanted so much detail in it. Like my hand was suffering really hard. Then it's also why I ended up needing to bring in an inker and a colorist, because it became like too much for me, and my editor wanted me to take on this other project at the same time, which I already had other projects going on at the same time. So I was like, listen, there's only 24 hours in the day. So they brought in other people to help with the art, and they did a fantastic job. So the process was basically from that thumbnail stage to then I would get these very tight roughs or pencils, which are like, it's like very clean sketches. I don't think they're that clean, but people always tell me that my sketches are really clean. So I would take it to that point, and I would put in already all the text, which then had to be redone anyway, so like, but I took it to that point, and then the inker would come in and do the clean line art, and the colorist came in, did all the colors. They were both fantastic.
One thing I really loved about the book was how it was kind of like set, you couldn't figure out the time period for it, right? It had like older kind of themes, like their clothing, but then they would have something really modern. I love the timelessness of it. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so little secret that is not a secret, because I tell everybody, is that the reason I did that is because I didn't want to do a lot of research. I was like one person at the time of writing the book and like planning it and stuff. It was supposed to be me and only me. And I did not trust myself to be able to do really good research on a specific time period, nor did I really have the time to do that. So I always think that a good solution to that kind of stuff is like, if you make up a setting and a time setting and everything, then like the rules are yours. You can make of them whatever you want. So that's how I came up with that. I just thought it fit. I know that some people think it's kind of jarring, but some people get it. Those who get it, get it. I just didn't want to end up in like a YouTube video at some point of somebody pointing out all the like historical inaccuracies in my thing, because I watch that type of YouTube video all the time, and I don't want to be the subject of them. So I'd rather just completely make it up. Because another thing is that this book is kind of very distantly inspired by Pride and Prejudice, which I love Pride and Prejudice. I absolutely hate Regency waistlines. They are awful. So I didn't want to draw Regency dresses. I wanted to draw different kinds of dresses with like lower waistlines. So I was just like, I'll make it up.
That's so fun. I mean, fashion is such a piece of this, right? Is that something that's really important to you?
Kind of. I keep getting kind of more and more into fashion. My personal fashion is very black trash bag style clothes. That's just what I'm into, but I like drawing all sorts of different things. And I really wished I'd had more time actually to put into the designs of the outfits that the characters are wearing. But you know, I still think it turned out pretty good. I think the outfits are pretty memorable, but yeah. I tried even to make a slight reference to a known dress situation, but I made the reference so distant from the original thing that nobody's gonna catch it, but there's like a dragon dress situation that is mentioned in the book at some point, and what I was thinking about when I was coming up with that was it was a peacock dress. I can't remember the absolute details, but I've watched a couple YouTube videos about it, but I also didn't want to like reference it directly because with a lot of aristocratic fashion, you know, the behind the scenes of it is not that pretty. And yeah, I like the fashion, but history is often complicated and unfortunate, so.
And you even brought cheese into the names of the like couture houses, right? I mean,
well, yeah, that's also for legal reasons. Yeah. That would not be fun to be like sued by Gucci or whatever, so we're gonna call it Gucci's. I was hoping to come up with a better name for Gucci's, but I just put it in as a placeholder, and I was just like, if I can't find anything better, we're gonna go with Gucci's. What else am I gonna do?
I thought it was fun. How do you think that your book can spark conversations and activities for kids and their families? Making grilled cheese sandwiches?
Yeah, that's a cool thing to imagine, like people making grilled cheese sandwiches together. I mean, obviously it's a book that features a queer love story, so hopefully, I don't know if it will necessarily spark big conversations, but like the thought of, you know, middle school age children having access to these queer stories is pretty great, because like I didn't have a lot of it. You know, I had to scour corners of the internet to read like BL manga back in the day. Like I couldn't even like find that to buy at the time in Brazil. So just that kind of stuff. Maybe the kids are gonna have an interest in fashion, and the book will kind of they'll relate to the story or the characters through that. Maybe that's also something that can come up. I mean, this library has really cool facilities that I was shown, so maybe the kids here actually have a chance to, like, as a child, start working on fashion and, like, you know, make their own clothes or customize their own clothes. That'd be really cool. So, I don't know. Things happen way beyond my imagination, so.
That's a fun thing, right? About creating a work of art and then what that then,
then
people are inspired to do from it.
Yeah.
I think you touched on this a lot in your discussion of it, but are there any personal experiences or anecdotes that influence the creation of the book?
Oh, I mean, yeah, the entire concept of the book came from a personal experience / anecdote. So, you know, the inciting incident, the main event, not the main event, it is the inciting incident of the story, which is the, like, failed attempted proposal with a grilled cheese sandwich, which, like, in real life, it wasn't supposed to be a proposal. At the time, it was just, you know, my then girlfriend offering me grilled cheese and me being like, nah, I had one for breakfast, and she got mad at me. And I was like, well, why would she get mad at me? Or why would the character in the story get mad? And, well, what if she was trying to propose with a sandwich? I was like, propose with a sandwich? My professor was like, who would propose with a sandwich? And I was like, dude, hear me out. They're all stupid, okay? So, like, it just just go with it, roll with it, okay? It's gonna make sense. Not that it did make much sense, proposing with a grilled cheese sandwich, but it's cute. It fits them. But yeah, I think that was mostly it. And then the personalities of the characters is what I took from real life people. But even then, like, you take things from places of inspiration and then they just kind of like take up a life of their own and become this like whole different thing. Like, as I said, it's distantly inspired by Pride and Prejudice, which is where I got the like, oh, the lower social standing, where Ricotta and Brie are talking. It's like, why isn't he proposing? And it's like, oh, he's technically a count. He would have to be a duke to be able to like maybe propose to you. That's where I got the like, oh, okay, so let's put this further up nobility. Let's not make it Regency. They're lesbians. Let's do this and do that. And then it's a completely different thing.
What advice would you give aspiring children's book authors?
My advice is gonna be so weird because it's like, diversify your income, make connections with people, make the stories you want to make and not the stories that you think should be made, because this industry is actually really hard. And there's a lot of downsides to it. So if you don't have like joy in what you're creating, it's gonna like eat you up and you're gonna burn out so bad. So yeah, make the type of stories you wanna make. If you're gonna get successful, you definitely wanna get successful with something that you enjoy doing, because you don't wanna be like stuck to things that you don't wanna be doing. And then you also have to pay quarterly taxes on it. It's like, which is really annoying. For like the kiddos, I would say honestly, like, put your stuff out there, put your stuff online for your friends. Like, maybe try to meet other people your age that have similar interests. Start building those connections early. There's so many extremely talented kids posting their art online and like sharing it with each other. Like, connect with them, but don't compare yourself to them. Comparison is the thief of joy and whatnot. You don't need to be the best artist. You don't need to be the absolute best writer to get somewhere in this kind of field. If you have a passion for it and this is like really something you like to do, just kind of like, just start doing it. Don't be afraid. Just go ahead. It's fun. It's a good time. There's a really welcoming and nice community out there for it.
So do you have any experience with libraries?
Not a lot, actually. I actually have no idea what my local library growing up would even be. I did do some stuff at like the school libraries growing up, but like not a lot. Honestly, my experience at the school library was pulling out the Guinness World Record book and like laughing at it. So there was that. But recently I started really getting into audiobooks. So I actually got my very first ever library card, and I've been listening to audiobooks through Libby non-stop ever since I got that. It's a really great thing. I like wasn't aware that you could do that until very recently. And like, now that I also have like a little nephew that I get to hang out with quite a bit, and like I've seen him have cool like story times at the library and seeing all the kids stuff that you can do there, and like it's just incredible. I wish I had more of an experience with it. I mean, I got to tour this library a little bit, and I wish I had this kind of stuff available to me growing up, but yeah, no, I don't actually have a lot of personal experience with it.
Well, welcome to libraries. Lovely to have you here. Are there any upcoming projects or that you can share about?
Well, I'm working on my webcomic. It's on Webtoon. It's called Blades of Furry. I work on that with my wife, and it updates every Saturday, and that is due to get a physical release sometime in the future, to be determined still, to be announced. I'm working on some other stuff, but unfortunately all of that is a secret. And I may or may not have very vague, very early plans for grilled cheese too. We'll see.
That would be fun.
We'll see what happens with that. So yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful getting to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's such a lovely place and such a lovely time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.